Dallas and or other parts of the world as well. So really, really appreciate you taking the time to basically be part of this webinar. Inshallah ta'ala, be beneficial and useful to everybody who is going to join, inshallah ta'ala. So this is the Barakah Effect webinar series. We have two audiences. We have audiences who are joining us via Zoom, and we have audiences joining us via Facebook live page. We'll do a quick check. It's actually still working. And yes, it is. Okay, so people are still joining us live from Facebook and also from Zoom. So thank you all again for joining us. And inshallah ta'ala, this will be a beneficial workshop webinar for all of you. It's going to be 1 hour long, inshallah ta'ala. I'll try to keep it crisp, I'll try to keep it practical, and inshallah something that we all benefit from, inshallah ta'ala. So this webinar, the point of this webinar is to look at this concept of work-life balance, but from a prophetic perspective. A lot of us, when we discuss work-life balance, we tend to look at it from maybe the modern age examples and how the challenge we face as people, as working in a professional environment, and how do you balance life, and we have kids, and we have home, and we have the masjid, and we have school, and we have other parts of our life, community, and we want to do our own stuff as well. And it's just becoming overwhelming for many people to balance their lifestyle and to have this work-life balance. So what we did at productivemuslim.com and at Leading Productive Lives is to look at this concept of work-life balance, say, well, how did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tackle work-life balance? What advice can we learn from his seerah? This is the work that we've been doing for the past 7 years, looking in our faith, looking at examples from our faith, look at the seerah, at hadith, at verse of the Quran, and trying to make it relevant to today's life, trying to understand how it practically applies in our modern day life, inshallah ta'ala. So in this session, you'll learn 3 things. The first of all, we'll learn why is this concept of work-life balance so hard to achieve? Why is it so difficult to achieve? And guys, those who join Facebook, appreciate you guys joining now. Why is the work-life balance so hard to achieve? And I would love to just hear some answers from you, because I personally, when we went through the registration forms, and you guys wrote down what's the #1 thing you find challenging with work-life balance, I was quite amazed at just the responses that are out there, from time management to not being able to balance deen and dunya to kids and study and and just the demands of life. But why is work-life balance so hard to achieve? Just anything, throw out there your ideas, your thoughts. Why is work-life balance so hard to achieve? Also, those who are on Facebook, please write down the comment. Why is work-life balance so hard to achieve? So Jamie Wright is getting caught up with life, so not being able to kind of calmly see what's heading, just getting caught up with life. Thank you, Jamie. Anyone else? Let me check the Facebook quickly. Distraction. Afiq Laziz is distractions. Yes, lots of distractions around us, so we're just not able to really have this quiet, balanced lifestyle. Let me check the Facebook comments. Okay. All right. So again, there's a lot of distraction helping as well. Okay. Lack of focus. Okay, good one, Amira. Thank you very much. Lack of focus. Thank you. So there are quite a number of things that that really affect our work-life balance. We'll talk more about that, inshallah ta'ala. Procrastination, Bilal, a good one. So that's the first session. We'll talk about why is work-life balance so hard to achieve, and we'll take a step back and think, have we been talking about work-life balance from a totally sort of inappropriate, maybe need to rethink this whole concept of work-life balance in the first place. The second thing we'll focus on is the prophetic advice on balancing our lives. And we'll really look at 3 hadiths from Prophet Muhammad and try to understand to the best of our ability what is advice that is practical and that we can apply in today's life and in today's modern context. And the third, we'll talk about this whole idea of barakah, how barakah is a key ingredient to help us balance our life, inshallah ta'ala. So let us talk about why is work-life balance so hard? Why is this such a hard concept to achieve? Why is people struggling with it? There are 5 main challenges when it comes to work-life balance. #1, work-life balance is very, very subjective. Let me give you 2 examples. I'll give you 2 examples. 2 couples, right? They're married, they have 2 kids. Both of them are working. Let's say the husband's working at a consulting company. He's probably working 50, 60 hours a week. He travels a lot. And for him, from his personal view, if he's home for dinner by 6, that's like, my God, I am achieving work-life balance. I'm like the king, I'm the best dad in the world. Now, from his wife's perspective, I think actually, no, you're always late, you don't spend enough time with the kids, you're always traveling, you're not achieving work-life balance. Same thing, let's look at the wife. Let's say the wife is also working. Let's say she's an executive in a marketing company, or she's an architect, or she's somebody who's also has a job and a career. Maybe from her perspective, she's feeling guilty that she's not spending enough time with the kids, that she's not waking up early enough to help prepare the kids' breakfast, perhaps. And even though she's spending much more time than that, perhaps, but that whole idea, because it's subjective, she thinks that this work-life balance it's too hard for me to achieve work-life balance. So this is one of the challenges about work-life balance, that we really find it so difficult that when you have two people, it's very subjective. It's like what we think of each other, right? It's like what I think is my own work-life balance might not be exactly the same as, for example, my wife or my kids. And same thing for my wife, might be her idea of work-life balance. If she's working, this is my work-life balance, but someone else might say, no, that's not how you balance your life. So it's very subjective. A lot of arguments happen in between married couples because of this issue, because work-life balance is so subjective. The second challenge that is ever changing. Work-life balance when you have one kid versus work-life balance when you have 3 kids. Work-life balance when you have a deadline and a big project coming up versus work-life balance in the summer when things are a bit more relaxed. It is always changed. There's no fixed example, spend 3 hours at work and spend 2 hours at home, and then you'll achieve work-life balance. There's no such thing as some kind of fixed way of doing it. That's why it's really hard to, this whole concept of work-life is ever changing. It's almost like trying to catch a mirage, trying to reach something that's unreachable in the first place because you can't even measure it, which comes to the third point. It's not measurable. How do you measure work-life balance? How do I know if I come to your house today and I look at your time schedule and look at your husband's time schedule, your wife's time schedule, and look at the kids' time schedule, and I say to you, okay, you guys get an A grade for work-life balance. How do you measure it? How do you score it? How do you balance it out? It is very difficult. So it's not even measurable. Like I said, you can't assign a number of hours for your work-life balance. Say, okay, this is how much time is spent for work and how much time is spent for life. So it's not measurable. So again, what are we talking about work-life balance? How can we even get to work-life balance if we can't measure it? The fourth challenge is that our attitude to work. Think about this concept, work-life balance. And that's the definition, the way this word is set up, work-life balance says to your attitude towards work. We're saying work is the center of our lives. Work is the center of our lives, and everything else is life, right? Including our spirituality, our family, our relatives, our neighbors, our community, our society, everything else is life, but work, that's like the main thing. So even the way this phrase is put together, work-life balance, by itself is problematic because it immediately makes you think work is more important, work is what I should focus on, and then life is everything else around it. So even the attitude towards work, and again, it's understandable. People are facing through economic issues, people are worried about their jobs. So work is becoming a very stressful thing. It's the thing that occupies most of our waking hours, and life is everything else that happens in between. Now, again, think about this from an Aqidah perspective, from as Muslims, as we believe that our purpose in this world is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How does this definition of work-life balance fit into that? That's what we want to discuss. That's what we want to get into. And this whole concept of work-life balance, it even fit with our belief system, with our understanding, with who we are and who's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and where we're heading eventually. That's another challenge that we're going to go with our attitude towards work. Now, the fifth issue about work-life balance, that guess what? Reality always wins. You can plan the best work-life balance lifestyle out there. You can say, I'm going to be home by 6, I'm going to do this by 8, and I'm going to be sleeping at 10, and we'll wake up at 4, and you have this awesome plan, but guess what? Reality always wins. You either wake up late, some kind of deadline comes at you, some accident happens. Reality always wins. So again, it's hard to control. If you can't control something, then how can you manage it? How can you manage your work and life if it's so hard to control? You're at work and you think that you can focus on your work, but your boss throws something at you. Or your kid calls you, he's sick or had an accident, and you have to go to rush to the hospital. So many things happens. Reality always wins. So these are the 5 challenges with this whole concept of work-life balance. And to be honest, when I was going through some research, I found this interesting quote from a Harvard Business Review, like literally 2 years ago, in March 2014, says work-life balance is at best an elusive ideal, and at worst a complete myth. And that's what most executives in the companies are thinking. It's like an elusive ideal. It's like you can't really reach out to it. It's almost like a mirage. You're trying to, you can't even reach out to it. Now you might think, well, why did I come to this webinar? If you're going to tell me work-life balance is impossible, it's challenging, it's subjective, it's not measurable, why am I here? Well, we need to look at it from a completely different perspective. We need to look at work-life, this whole idea, and sort of scrap it completely. Scrap this concept work-life balance, and let us look at the prophetic way of treating work-life, this whole idea of work-life from a prophetic perspective. And we're going to look at 3 hadith from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this way gets really interesting, because when we look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way he approached this whole concept, he didn't approach it as work and life. He approached it as there is life, and you're trying to balance across all these different aspects: your spiritual aspect, your physical aspect, your family aspect, your social aspect. One of the most clearest hadith of this that says this, and by the way, I learned this hadith from a friend of mine who really practically lived it. He said, I was going through a very, very busy time in my life, and I was really, really stressed out, to the point where I was missing appointments to my children. I was, traveling so much. I was not even spending quality time with my kid, with my wife. And said he really, really struggled until he came across this hadith, and he just realized how far away from the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he has reached, because of his whole idea that this attitude towards work that overtook him. This is the hadith from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar, when he said that one day Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered upon him and said, I've been informed that you offer prayer all night and fast the whole day. Now, I want you to rephrase that question in your own mind. Imagine Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam entering your life and asks you, I've been informed that you work 80 hours a week. I've been informed that you are doing all these things all over, and you're sort of neglecting other parts. You can rephrase. Now, alhamdulillah, and this example is like of someone who's actually very pious, someone who's praying fasting the whole day and praying all night. So you might think it's such an awesome example, someone we should all sort of aspire to. But Muhammad was very worried. He came to him and said, I've been informed. Imagine, he went to see him. It's not like the man came to him and asked him. He actually went to see him and says, I've been informed that you pray all night and you fast the whole day. And he was concerned about him and asked him. And the man said, yes, that's what I do. So the Prophet immediately told him, do not do so. Don't do that. Offer prayers at night and also sleep. Fast a few days and give up fasting. And then here's the crux of what we're here for. Because your body has a right upon you, your eye has a right upon you, your guest has a right upon you, and your wife has a right upon you. So that's the crux of this whole idea. The idea is not about work-life balance, but it's about the rights and responsibilities. It's not about expectations we have of each other. It's not about whether you're at home at 6 or at 7, or whether you're preparing for your kids or not. It's whether are you fulfilling the rights of those around you? Are you fulfilling the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are you fulfilling the rights of your family? Are you fulfilling the rights of your work because you sign a contract with them? Are you fulfilling the rights of your society, of your neighbors? Are you fulfilling the rights of you as a Muslim? All these concepts, that's what this talk is about. It's not about how many hours am I spending, how much hours should you spend on, how much hours should I spend on, and having that discussion debate is about rights and responsibilities and what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the crux of the whole idea of work-life balance. If you understand it from the perspective of rights and responsibilities and not from the point of view of expectations, it becomes much, much easier to manage, inshallah ta'ala. So your body has a right upon you, your eyes are right upon you, your guest is a right upon you, and your wife's a right upon you. That's just a reminder by Prophet ﷺ to teach us that it's not about being so focused on one thing that you forget everything else. And imagine, like I said, this person was doing something amazing. He was doing what me and you think is the sole purpose of our being, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was like fasting all day, praying all night. But it Prophet reminded him, no, this is not, do not do this. Like very clearly, category, do not do so, but have a balance, and think from the perspective of rights and responsibilities. Any thoughts on this? Any right now when I said this, does anything that surprised you? Anything that thought, this is interesting? Anything that said maybe made you rethink the way we think work-life balance? I'm interested to hear from your chat. I'm going to check out on the Facebook, guys, see if you can watch this, inshallah. Okay. All right. Okay. So Jem is saying that, it's not about quantifying time. We'll talk more about practical things again as we go along on this webinar. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we really need to think about work-life balance, not in the sense of expectations, how much I expect you to spend at work, how much your time expected to spend at home or family, but about rights and responsibilities. And we'll talk more when we go on the practical way how this applies. The second hadith that I want to go into is this hadith Prophet ﷺ that taught us that each of us is a shepherd and each of us is responsible for his flock. And he then sort of enumerated different categories. So then the rulers is like a shepherd over his people, the man is shepherd in charge of his household, the woman is shepherdess in charge of her husband's house and children, and it's talking about feeling responsibility. Now, this is the second point of work-life balance. It's not about expectations, it's about feeling responsible. Right now, if you're thinking of spending 80 hours a week at work, does that not put some kind of some kind of feel responsibility? Am I neglecting my responsibilities? And by the way, the word responsible here is very powerful. It's not, when we think responsibility, for example, let's say towards our family, we think as long as we feed them, clothe them, as long as we earn money for them, put them to good schools, we're done. The word ra'i, kullukum ra'in, kullukum mas'oolun an ra'iyatihi. The word ra'i actually talks about somebody who not just takes care or protects, but develops and grows. So when you're responsible for a company, or if you're responsible for your family, if you're responsible for a community, it's not about just making sure nothing goes wrong. It's not making sure that they're all fed and everyone's sort of sleeps safe at home. It's about what are you doing to develop and to grow them. So that responsibility it's not simply as long, alhamdulillah, I'm earning income for my family, and as long as I have a roof over the house and they have food on the table, then I've fulfilled my responsibility as a parent, for example. Or as long as I go to work and I fulfill the minimum requirements of my work, then I've fulfilled my responsibility. No, it's more about, have I developed? The word ra'i means not only to just take care, but to take that step further and say, am I developing the people around me? Am I improving the people around me? Am I trying to help grow the people around me? How am I helping growing, whether it's my work, whether it's my spirituality, whether it's my family, whether it's my community, whether it's my society? Each one of us is responsible and a shepherd, and each one of us is responsible for a flock. So this responsibility should not come to our mind as long as I take care of the bills and pay everything, and as long as I do the minimum work, and as long as I go to masjid and pay the donation, I'm done. Responsibility here from the sense of, what am I doing to grow and to develop those around me, to improve those around me, whether it's my family, whether even it's at work, whether it's in my community, my neighborhood. This is what this is about. The idea of being responsible, not in a very minimal level, but really feeling I'm responsible to really help improve and grow and to protect those who are around me, not just on a basic level. So that's the second hadith, and again, we'll take more practical things as we get through this third session. Now, this is my favorite hadith, and at first, I'll be honest with you, I have a confession to make. This hadith, to be honest, I found it very difficult to understand. It's a very long hadith. It's actually a conversation that happened between Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Aisha radiallahu anha. And it's about this conversation when Aisha radiallahu anha was narrating the story of 11 women who spoke about their husbands and described their husbands, one by one described their husbands. Now, when you read this hadith, it's a very long hadith. It goes pages and pages and pages. And to be honest, I never understood this hadith. It's been like, and I heard about this hadith, I read this hadith a few times. I'm trying to understand what is the point of this hadith. I mean, I just did not understand it. Now, subhanAllah, about a few weeks ago, I finally got it. Alhamdulillah, the Imam actually went through this hadith and kind of hit me what this whole hadith is about. Because hadith, the way it works is that Aisha radiallahu anha is going through this long conversation. I mean, literally, you see in the hadith book, is pages and pages and pages about how these women describe their husbands, and they go in detail. And towards the end, when she finishes the story of the 11 women, she mentions the story of Abu Zara. And Abu Zara was the last person, and her wife was describing as a really good person who really treats her well. So Prophet ﷺ said to her towards the end, I am to you as Abu Zara was to his wife Zara. I am to you as Abu Zara was to his wife Zara. Now, that statement on its own is like, okay, interesting. What's the point of this whole hadith? But when you think about it, and this is what the Imam was when he said it, when I kind of hit me, was that the fact that the Prophet ﷺ truly listened to Aisha till the end. How many of us truly listen to those around us, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's our children, whether it's our community? How does truly listen? How many of us, someone is talking and we're just like texting, snapping, twittering, and not truly listening? This hadith actually falls in the chapter of marriage and nikah in Sahih Bukhari, and this is the reason, and it's under the bab of good manners. The fact that Prophet ﷺ listened to Aisha intently, heard the whole story, the 11 women, and compared how they talk to their husbands, and specifically pointed out this last person because he was the best of them, and said, "I am to you as Abu Zar was to his wife," and as a way to truly listen to him. This is, now we might think, well, what does this have to do with work-life balance? Sometimes, when we think of work-life balance, it's not about the quality or the quantity of time we spend with those who are around us, right? It's about the quality of time. If we truly spend quality time, it could be half an hour, it could be 1 hour, it might not be long, but if you spend quality time with your spouse, with your family, with even at work, with your community, quality time, and you really, intently focus, 100% be fully engaged. It's not like you're at work and you're like 50% at home, and when you're at home, you're 50% at work, and you're constantly not fully engaged. If you're fully engaged, then it becomes easier for you to truly have this life balance, not just work-life balance, but true have life balance, because you are focused and fully engaged at every present moment of your life. Now, this is a prophetic way of reading, of having this life balance, this idea of truly being fully present, fully engaged wherever you are, whether it's at work, whether it's in your community, whether it's in at home with your kids, being fully engaged. Any questions, any thoughts, anything that comes to your mind right now and think, I never thought this way, anything that surprised you, maybe a note or story, or something that you might think, I don't want this to be a lecture, I want this to be more like conversation. So anything that comes to your mind, think this is helpful, I never thought this way, or maybe this is something that perhaps we could learn that example. I'd love to hear from you, and again, I'm going to go check the Facebook guys and see how well they're doing, inshallah. Okay. Any questions from the Zoom? Okay, so Muslim asks, how can you get better with avoiding distractions? We'll get into that, inshallah ta'ala. So right now I'm just building a framework, and I'm going to go through practical tips in the next few slides, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so what did we learn? We learned that, number one, when we talk about the prophetic guidance on life balance, again, we're not calling work-life balance anymore, we're calling it life balance. It's not about work-life balance, as I said, it's about overall life balance. Number two, that life balance, it's not about expectations, it's about fulfilling rights and responsibilities. You can never fulfill expectations. Expectations keep growing, keep changing, they're subjective, but rights and responsibilities, that is what will be held accountable for. The third thing we learned from the hadith is that to be 100% focused whatever you're engaged in. If you're at home, 100% focus at home. If you're at work, 100% focus at work. So these are three principles that we learn from the seerah, we extract from the seerah. Now again, most of us probably read this hadith before, learned this hadith before, but it's about taking these concepts from our faith, from our deen, and saying, how does it solve a serious challenge that I'm facing right now at home or at work, this whole idea of life balance. This is what this training is about. It's about trying to develop in us this connection between our faith and our modern day life and our professional lives, and saying, well, how can we extract the lessons that are practical, that are applicable, that solve some of these issues that we just every day we boggle with? How many discussions we had about work-life balance at home, at work, or with your family, with your kids? These are practical things. This is where Islam becomes relevant to you. This is where Islam becomes something that you enjoy practicing, not just something theoretical that you read and learn about. So these are three main points that, these three most, I love this, Sister Saba right now, she just put in a beautiful verse in the Quran, وَأَقِمْ وَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُ الْمِيزَانَ, that maintain just measure. This is the true balance. Maintain just measure and do not transgress against the balance. Everything in the universe has its balance. And if you overcome, even in your own professional lives, in your own lives, not have that balance, then you're going against the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted this whole creation to be. When you strive to achieve this life balance, that is when you're striving towards achieving that qist, that mizan. Sister Saba, really appreciate you sharing that. That's very, very beautiful, inshallah. Okay, so what does this mean in practice? Now, this is where we get a bit more practical. I've mentioned the hadith, I've mentioned the challenges. What does this mean in practice? So what I want us to do is basically, I want you to draw 2 lines. If you can just do this with me right now as an exercise, physical exercise. If you can get a piece of paper and draw 2 lines. On the y-axis, the vertical line, just put performance. And on the x-axis, put in the different roles that you play in your life, the different hats you wear. For example, you say, I'm a Muslim or Muslimah. I'm a father or mother. I'm a son or daughter. I'm an employee or boss. I'm a neighbor. I'm a brother or sister. I'm an aunt. I am an uncle. I am a board member of a masjid. I am a member of this committee. I'm a volunteer for this organization. Put down all the different roles that you are currently fulfilling in your life. You just take a few minutes, just do this exercise, it'll be very, very insightful. Just a few minutes, put down the different roles that you are basically setting up for yourself and ask yourself, how well am I performing? From 0 to 100, this is a personal exercise, no one's gonna see this, I'm not gonna mark you for it. How well am I doing as a Muslim? How well am I doing as a father or mother? How well am I doing as a son or daughter? How well am I doing as an employee, or if I'm a boss, I'm a boss? How well am I doing as a neighbor? How well am I doing as a volunteer for this committee or this board or something? How well am I doing as an uncle, nephew? Just put down the different, performance levels, inshallah. Just put down the different performance levels. Okay. Okay, Isaiah, is a good question. If you can save your question towards the end, that's a great question about if someone works 80 hours a week, is that person working for his family anyway? Great question. We'll, inshallah ta'ala, we will answer that towards the end of this session. For now, let's do this exercise together, inshallah ta'ala. Just figure out the different roles you play and ask yourself, how well am I performing? From 0 to 100, if I were to give myself a grade, am I 80% Muslim, 30% father, 20% son, 100% employee? How well am I performing? Just again, subjective. No one, you're not asking people feedback. This is just you. Spend just 2 or 3 minutes doing this, and just give yourself a way just to think about it and let it sort of simmer inside your head as well. Again, we'll check on the Facebook, guys, and I'll be right back. Okay, if you're done, just give a shout that you're done, that you've done this. Just give me a little shout in the chat, inshallah ta'ala. Just 2 minutes. Okay. All righty, okay, mashallah, you guys are fast. All right. Okay, let me just take this away and get back on this track. Okay. So once you've done this role, once you kind of give yourself a score, how well you're doing, and you think, okay, this is interesting, I'm seeing my performance levels. What surprised you? What came to your mind, thought, I never thought of it this way? Again, what surprised you? What did you think interesting from just doing this exercise right now and just putting the performance of your own performance? Just what surprised you? Again, just if you just write in the chat, anything comes to mind. Okay, so I say nothing is really 100%. Everything is amazing though. Okay, I don't want you to depress yourself. I'm hoping to encourage you, inshallah. Okay, so you're not doing well over the board. Okay, it's interesting to quantify it. Okay, that's helpful. What else surprised you? Think, I never thought this is okay. Muslim saying I'm doing well in 1 or 2 areas and I'm struggling in other areas. Okay, very good. Okay. Very good. Okay. Now, if I were to ask you, based on just this performance that you just put for yourself, how can you score yourself? How can you know that you are truly successful? And again, thinking from a Muslim perspective, truly successful meaning in dunya and akhirah, that on the day of judgment, when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, oh Allah, this is how well I did in my life. These are the roles, responsibilities you gave me, and this is how I performed. How can you tell whether you are doing well or you need to improve yourself? Because the consequence of it's serious, because you'll be asked about some of these roles. Like if you're a parent and you're expected to achieve a certain role, to achieve a certain performance level for your children, what's that expectation so that you don't fall short of it? If you are a son and daughter and you have certain, and Islam expects you to achieve a certain role, a certain performance level with your parents, does that mean? And what's that level? And how does it change when your parents are younger and healthier versus when they're older, for example, and they're more sick? If you're an employee and you sign a contract with your employer, what does Islam expect me to maybe my performance level so that I fulfill my contract? I don't get questioned their judgment that I haven't fulfilled my contract and my income's not halal, for example. It's about taking that step back and saying, well, where am I heading with this performance? A lot of times I think performance, we'll think about work, right? End of year performance and quarterly performances. But if we were to take work life in this whole performance sort of review to a whole life, and then put in the context of the akhirah, of not just ourselves, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will be holding us accountable, because these roles are not just there are certain expectations. Then what is the performance level that in the end will save us and enter us into Jannah and not enter us into hellfire? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves. You hear about all this hadith about staying close to the relatives, or being good, being good to the neighbor, or fulfilling the rights of your parents, or fulfilling the rights of your children. And then but we never thought of it from this perspective of improving ourselves across our roles, not just in our work. So what I want to introduce you is something else. It's something I learned from a man called Sulaiman Ahmad. He runs an organization called Time Lenders. And he taught me this thing, which was really powerful. He said that if you were to ask today, if I ask anybody, say, what's the model of success as a human being? You say, as long as he's got a good career, he's got a house, got a car, got a nice family, this person's successful, right? But from an Islamic point of view, a model of success is that you are achieving, you're fulfilling the rights of your creator, and you're fulfilling the rights of the creation. That's the model of success. If you're fulfilling the rights of the creator by obeying him, by avoiding sins, and by the creation, meaning from parents to the neighbors, to your children, to the huquq ibad, the other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the model of success. So from that perspective, the question to ask though is, what's the minimum performance level for each of these roles that Islam expects me to have? For example, as a Muslim, what's the minimum performance level that Islam expects me to have? And maybe you remember the hadith of that Bedouin Arab who came to Prophet ﷺ and says, "O Prophet of Allah, is it true that Allah sent you as a messenger?" Prophet said, "Yes." Is it true He asked you to that we should say La ilaha illallah Rasulullah? He said, "Yes." Is it true that we should pray 5 times a day? He said, "Yes." Is it true that we should fast whole month of Ramadan? He said, "Yes." Is it true that we should pay zakah once a year? He said, "Yes." Is it true that we should do hajj at least once in a lifetime? He said, "Yes." Then he said, "O Prophet of Allah, then bear witness, I'll only do these 5, and I'll avoid the haram, and I'll stick to the halal, and I'll do nothing else more." Right? He said, "I'll do nothing else more." So he's put the minimum performance level. And Prophet ﷺ said, this man will enter Jannah if he's truthful. If his person speaks the truth and he holds on to that thing, that only does the 5, sticks to halal, avoids the haram, then he'll enter Jannah. That's the minimum performance level as a Muslim. Let's move on to, for example, being a father or a mother. What's the minimum performance level as a mother and as a father that Islam requires us to have, right? Nurturing our children, making sure that they're at least the basic rights of feeling safe and sheltered is there. Making sure we're teaching them Islamic manners, making sure we teach them La ilaha illallah, we pass on La ilaha illallah to them, making sure we teach them the basic fiqh that they need to live their lives. That's the minimum performance level as a father or a mother, and the akhlaq we need. Now, if you do more than that, great, that is ihsan, right? If you do less than that, then you're not fulfilling that. Give them a good name, for example, is another rights upon. You can read about the rights of parents over its children and vice versa. And many books of scholars have gone into detail of the rights of parents on children and parents, so on and so forth. Same thing, son and daughter. What's the minimum performance level as a son and daughter? Like I said, if your parents are younger and healthier, maybe they don't need much care, but if they're getting older and they're getting more sickly and they need your more attention, that's maybe you need to maybe the performance level goes up. You need to spend more time with them. You need to really take care of them. What's the minimum performance level Islam expects us to have when it comes to treating our parents? What's the minimum performance level at work, right? Again, it's not saying that you should do the minimum. It's saying to yourself, what's the performance levels that we should have across our different roles? And then knowing what is that level that if I go below that level, I'll be questioned their judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold me to account. And if I do more, that ihsan, I should get rewarded for that extra effort, that extra going the extra mile. What is that performance level? Once you discover this minimum performance levels, then you'll now understand how to have life balance. Because now, again, like I said, it's not about how many hours you spend at home, how many hours you spend at work. It's about, am I fulfilling the rights and responsibilities of my Creator, of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon me, and the rights of others upon me? Am I fulfilling them? If I'm fulfilling them, alhamdulillah. Right? Now, you might say, I'm still struggling, I only have a few hours here and there. But am I fulfilling the right responsibilities of my, of those around me, and in all my different roles, at least the minimum required by Islam, not by other expectations, but by Islam itself? That's where we are. Now, we say, well, where do I learn these minimum performance levels for all the different roles? That's what I say. When you face a situation, ask a scholar, ask an imam, what exactly, example, because everyone's different. You might have a context where, let's say, you work from home, for example, and you have family here. And so to understand a context, what is the minimum performance level expected from you, that's where it comes in. But a lot of it's very intuitive. You'll probably know in your heart exactly what's the minimum performance level expected from each one of us. So any thoughts, any questions, anything came into your mind? Again, it's interesting thought, I never thought of it that way as well. Just anything comes to your mind. Okay, so Aisha's saying, what about a student? Again, what's the minimum requirement of a student? Again, the minimum requirement of students to learn the material enough that you can I'll say for you to either succeed in life with it, right? It's not about, maybe the grades, of course, is what society expects you to have, and this is at least something that should help you to get a good job as well. But also think about learning in a sense of being able to, really internalize that information, that knowledge you're learning, not just, parroting it up and memorizing and just passing it on to somebody else. So I think that's where you probably need to think with students is more of, why am I here? What am I learning? How can I use this knowledge and benefit, myself, my family, my society at large, and to see what's the minimum performance level that I need to do to achieve that level, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Ahmed, that's a good question. What's the minimum performance level as a friend? That's a very good question, right? And again, this is where the hadith Prophet ﷺ taught us that there are 5 rights that every Muslim has upon us, right? For example, when they say salam, we should respond back to the salam. When they invite us, we should go and to the invitation. If they fall sick, we should go visit them. If there's a funeral, we should, if it's a funeral, should go into their funeral, for example. And the 5th one, I can't remember if someone can remind me, inshallah ta'ala, but there's 5 rights that every Muslim has upon him as brother Muslim, example. Not to, not to basically say, desert them for more than 3 days, for example. That's another right upon our Muslim brother, example. These are some of the rights. And this is, again, if you look at the books of hadith and seerah and scholars, they've really went to a lot of details about these rights that we can draw on from our deen, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Okay, Bilal has a great question about organizing our life around priorities and different points in time. Good point. For example, sometimes, let's say parents are the most important thing because they're very old, very sick, and you need to organize your life around that. Sometimes perhaps, your kids, for example, are becoming very important. You have to organize your life around that. It's true. This is a transient thing. It's not fixed. It's not like I have a performance level, as long as I achieve it, I'm done. It always changes. It's always changing, but we need to start thinking across these roles. What happens to most of us, we get so engrossed to thinking about one role and focus on one role, and mostly it's the work role, that we always neglect the other roles. What I'm trying to force you with this model is to always keep thinking, number one, what are the different roles? How well am I doing? And what's the minimum required by Islam at every point in time? You can do this review every 3 months, do this exercise every 2 months, 3 months, and really build your performance level as well. Okay, Jazakallah khair Halima for sharing the hadith about the right of every Muslim to return his greeting, to accompany the funeral procession, to accept invitation, to respond to the sneeze. That's it. Respond to his sneeze. Rahmakallah subhanahu. Jazakallah khair Halima for sharing that. Okay. All right. So far we've covered. Like I said, for you to really achieve this, you need to review this us on a weekly basis. There's something called, if you probably heard about, those of you in IT will probably know this, agile software development. The idea of that, you constantly, you always iterate, get feedback from customers and iterate again, iterate. Same concept can help you with your work-life balance. This is where it gets very practical. If you imagine every week, once a week, you sit down with your spouse, you sit down with your family, with your kids, and saying, okay, guys, what went well last week? What going well? Okay, alhamdulillah, everyone woke up on time, we managed to get the masjid on time, we managed to do this, that, the other. Okay, what didn't go well last week? Well, for example, we missed this appointment, we were late for this thing, this didn't work out. Okay, how can we better and support each other to be better, right? Just having the conversation. Okay, and what's coming up next week? Okay, I'm traveling next week, so who's gonna take care of this? Who's gonna take care of that? And what can we do about it? Having this weekly review where you're just asking on a weekly basis, just asking like, how well are you doing? It will help you always tweak your life balance constantly. Now again, not think work-life, but think about life. How are you doing in our faith? Do you pray on time? How are we doing with, do we wake up early enough to pray Tahajjud, for example? Are we fasting enough? Are we doing charity? And then you look at your family. Are we calling our relatives often? Are we staying close? Are we fulfilling the rights of those who are around us? Are we, just being always conscious of these rights, because these are the rights that are very important to be questioned about their judgment. So reviewing weekly, instead of having once a year when you kind of have this annual review in Ramadan and how well I think, weekly makes it very, very easy to keep tweaking. Maybe you should wake up early. Maybe you should add a different activity here and there. But this is where it comes in, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, or seasonally, right? Or review seasonally. And how well am I doing as a father? How well am I doing as a mother? How well am I doing as a son? How well am I doing as a, and then what does Islam require me to have, inshallah ta'ala? Okay, let me give some water. My voice is going dry. Bismillah. Okay, so what have we learned so far? We learned about practical ways to implement these first 2 points about work-life balance by understanding that we have different roles we fulfill, and the idea of rights and responsibilities by understanding this idea of minimum performance level, making sure that we always achieve a minimum performance level across our different roles that is dictated to us by Islam. Now, the next point is about 100% focus. How can we be 100% focused and be engaged, as we learned from the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Here are these are 4 practical tips I'm going to share with you to help you be 100% focused and engaged with your family and those around you at work, at home, and your community, and practical 100% focus. Number 1, turn off these annoying notifications. Turn them off. Turn that annoying red thing in. Turn that red. I know you have 56 unread messages. All that ding dong ding. Turn off all the notifications. It's amazing how when you turn that off, you'll be much more focused. Because what happens, you're sitting talking to somebody, even with all good intentions, you're sitting talking to somebody and you hear ding, right? And the natural urge, no matter how well practiced you are, is to just open the phone and check it, right? This is a natural, even if it's a quick glance, you'll do it. So avoid that. If you want to be 100% focused, just turn off all those notifications. Remove that red buttons, remove the sound button, and you decide when you'll check your phone. You decide when you'll be when you'll allow yourself to be distracted. It's not the other way around. Because it's almost like, imagine you're sitting at home and you're working, or in your office and working, and somebody just barges in. Hey, what's up? You're like, okay, hi, how are you doing? And then 2 minutes later, barges in. Hey, what's up? Like, okay, man, dude, let me alone. And thirdly, hey, what's up? 3 times the person will keep barging in. You're like, get away. But we allow that with our phones. We allow basically our phones to distract, we allow our phones to do that, to keep on disturbing us at all times. So turn off notifications. The first step for you to be 100% fully engaged. Number 1, listen to understand and not to reply. Okay? A lot of us, when we listen to somebody, it's almost like we're trying to build the argument back. but listen to understand. And there's a quick tip for you guys. You can just take like a little notebook, like a little, notebook and a pen and paper, and maybe like while they're talking, especially if you're at work or in a meeting or something, just listen, try to really understand what the person is saying. Don't listen and in your head you're trying to build an argument to say back. Listen to understand. Even just like nodding is a good physical way to get that person like, I'm understanding you. Even ask clarification questions. What do you mean by that? Listen to understand, and be like Prophet ﷺ, who listened to the Aisha and talk this long story, and in the end commenting that story. Listen to understand. That's the second thing, to be fully engaged. Turn your entire body towards the person. This is again from the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ. When people used to meet him, he said he used to turn his whole body. Didn't do what we do, unfortunately, which is someone's talking to you like, yeah, yeah, I'm listening, yeah, going on, yeah, I'm listening, right? It's more like, listen, turn your whole body towards that person. That's also in the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ and helps us to balance it. Number 3, Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro technique is a very powerful technique. You can Google it. I mean, actually, so if someone can put the link on the chat, pomodorotechnique.com. It's actually a powerful technique, very simple. You put a timer for 25 minutes and you just focus. Because let's be honest, being away and not being distracted for 3, 4, 5 hours, it's hard. But if you say to yourself, for just 25 minutes, I'm going to turn off all distractions and I'm going to focus on a single task without getting distracted. That technique works because 25 minutes is not too short that you don't get anything done, and it's not too long that it gets too boring for you. So 25 minutes is just right for you to help you get through. Actually, to be honest, today I used the Pomodoro technique to help me get through this presentation. I was working since morning, and the Pomodoro technique really helped me just to stay focused and just get through the work. So if you want to be 100% focused, Pomodoro technique, very powerful. Jazakumullah khair, Halima and Zainab, for sharing, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. So these are 4 ways, 4 very practical tips to be 100% focused. Any of these that you guys liked or will start implementing, if you just let me know which one of these you think, you know what, I'll start implementing from now on. Which one? Turn notifications, or turn your body, or Pomodoro technique, or listen to that. Which one of these you think, you know what, I'll start using? Again, I'll let you go check out the Facebook, guys, and I'll be right back. Just put on your chat which one of these would actually start using to be 100% focused. Okay. Awesome. All right. All right, brilliant. Jazakumullah khair. So thank you so much. I'm glad you guys are into get. Okay, excellent. Jazakumullah khair. You're a long-time follower and you learned the first and the fourth one. Hopefully the second and third will help a lot. Jazakumullah khair. All right. So again, what did we learn from Prophet ﷺ in terms of work-life balance? We learned that it's not about work-life balance, but it's about life balance. And the idea of life balance means you look at all your roles. And number 2, second we learned is we think about rights and responsibilities. Like Prophet taught us that we should think about your body is a right upon you, your Lord is a right upon you, your wife is a right upon you, your guest is a right upon you. And secondly, about responsibilities, each one of us should be responsible, and responsible not in the sense of as long as I protect them, but responsibility of how to develop and to grow them. And number 3, we spoke about what we learned from this whole idea of life balance is how the quality of your time you spend, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether the community, you really give your 100% focus by implementing 4 practical ways, which is to listen attentively, to turn your whole body towards the person, the Pomodoro technique, and keep forgetting the turn off the notifications. These are 4 ways, inshallah ta'ala, that will help you implement, be 100% focused and engage in your work. Okay. Now, this is a little touching on this last point. This is the last part of this webinar, inshallah ta'ala, on this idea of the barakah effect to achieve life balance. Now, let's be honest, right? There's a lot of demands in our life. There's a lot of commitments we're involved in. There's a lot of things we have to do. We're very busy, and it's very hard. And a lot of people will say, well, this whole idea is there's no barakah. You probably hear this a lot. If there's no barakah in my life. Now, what does the word barakah mean? Barakah, there are 2 definitions that I'll share with you. Number 1 is thubutul khayr ilahi fi shay, that there is attachment of divine goodness to a thing. That is barakah. The second thing about barakah, there's another definition, is that it's minimum provision, maximum benefit. Minimum provision, maximum benefit. Now think about this. You might think you have little time, but if it has maximum benefit for yourself, for your family, for those around you, then there's barakah in your time. So to us, in order for us to really feel the barakah in our lives, we need to tap and ask, how do we get this barakah? How can we have more barakah in our time and really achieve this life balance? Now, the second point here is that, let's think of Prophet ﷺ, okay? At one point, he had 9 wives. He was a leader. He was the imam. He was the mufti. He was, people say, oh, Prophet did not have a 9-to-5 job. His whole day and night was to save humanity from hellfire. That was his 24/7 job. So how much, if you think of someone who's busy, you think that probably he will be the busiest person out there. But you'd see from his life, when you look at the Prophet's day from morning till evening, you'll see how balanced it is, how he was able to really balance across the different rights, whether it's his family, whether it's his Rabb al-Alameen, whether it's his community, whether himself, the way he took care of, that whole balance. And just to learn from that, that is the model that we should be following. And remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet ﷺ as a uswatun hasana, as a model for all of us. So if we're not tapping into that role model in terms of our day-to-day lives, then guess what? We will lead unbalanced lives. The fact that Prophet ﷺ taught us the best, now you might think, well, how does it work? That's the work we're doing now. We're trying to break down what is the day of the Prophet ﷺ, and how can we extract from that to help us lead our modern day lives in a way that is as close to his life as possible and get that barakah because we're following his sunnah. That is the way the challenge is. That's what we need to take more seriously, this whole idea of barakah. The third point about barakah is that a lot of us, when you think about life balance or even work-life balance, if we're going to use that term again, it's about control, right? You want to have control of your life. I want to be I want to know exactly how, when I'm home, when I'm at work, I want to be in control of, whether my spouse and how they spend their time. And it's about control. That's really the essence of productivity, in a sense, is about control. The moment you're out of control, we think, oh my God, I'm living unbalanced lives. The beauty of barakah is that it forces you to say what? You are not in control, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control. You're not in control of the outcome or results, but what's in your hands is your intentions and your effort. If you put in the intentions and the hard work, then leave the outcome to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you think to yourself that, oh, I need to make sure everything is organized properly, everything be in the same place, and I make sure so and so is at home this time, and so does this at that time, and you're trying to control these variables, then trust me, you will always feel out of control. Like I said, reality always wins. Reality always wins. So for you not to fight against that, how should you fight against that? The way you should fight against, number one, turning to the one who has control, fulfilling the rights of your Lord, fulfilling the rights of those around you, fulfilling the huquq that Allah has asked you to do, and leaving, and then putting the right intentions, working hard, and then you see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things easier, and puts that barakah in your life, makes things smooth, things you didn't plan for keeps coming and makes it easy for you. That's where we are at. That's where we are at. So it's a very tough concept. It's not something easy we all of us digest, because we're so used to planning, making sure everything's in control, everything's balanced, and everything but in the end, really the essence of all of this is where's the la ilaha illallah, that we are not in control. We all belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the end, as long as our intentions are clear, as long as we put in the effort, and we try our best to fulfill the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rights of those of His creation, then that barakah will come into our lives and will lead a life barakah that's more balanced, that's more peaceful, that's more contentful, that's more powerful. That's where we want to be at. And finally, we have this 18 source of barakah. If you didn't know about this before, you should go check out the infographic we have on our website. It's for free, called productiveness.com. Go for the 18 source of barakah. These are 18 sources. We have hadith and verses of the Quran that talks about barakah and how to tap into this source of barakah. So it's a very practical way for you to say, if I want barakah, where do I get barakah from? How do I get more barakah in my life? Like the question, how do I get barakah? You can bring that barakah into your life. Fatima just answer the question. Definition of barakah is thubutul khayrul ilahi fi shay, that it is the attachment of divine goodness to a thing. That's one definition of barakah. The second definition of barakah is minimum provision, maximum benefit, inshallah ta'ala. So this is how we tap into barakah. So the point of this slide is to make us realize that for us to lead a life of barakah, and for us to lead a life of balance in home, in work, in community, in service, fulfilling the rights and responsibilities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rights and responsibilities of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to think of this barakah mindset. We need to always think, where's the barakah? How can I tap into the barakah? It's not to be in control and manage and plan everything, but it's more about how can I tap into barakah and plan my life around this whole idea of barakah by putting right intentions and working hard, inshallah ta'ala, and tapping into the 18th source of barakah. I'm going to leave you with 3 practical tips. But first, I'm going to share with you something. This is a picture of a friend of mine. Actually, he is a company executive works in Dubai, and he actually printed this 18th source of barakah, and he actually put it in his office, and he gifted this to his CEO, and he gifted it to 3 other people. And he just always looks at it and it's like, what am I tapping into? And this is what I mean by having this barakah mindset in our professional lives. We need to think about always the idea of barakah, because this is the thing that will help us lead us more meaningful, more positive, more contentful lives, inshallah ta'ala. So 3 practical tips to want to share with you to add more barakah into our lives, so to achieve more balance. Number 1 is to wake up early, as Muhammad ﷺ taught us that بُورِكَ لِأُمَّتِي فِي بُكُورِهَا, the early hours are blessed for my nation. And there are numerous books that talked about early hours, waking up early. And this is, again, even non-Muslims have realized the barakah in the early hours. They think you can do so much more in the early hours and you achieve so much. We need to tap into that. Wake up early, not just wake up Fajr, even before Fajr. Not just trying to wake up Fajr and go back to sleep, but wake up for Fajr and really making that morning a time for 3 things: nurturing yourself by salah, by exercise, by eating well, nurturing your relationships, spending quality time with your spouse, with your kids, with your parents, nurturing your careers, nurturing your vocations, what you are interested in, by writing, by thinking, by planning, by brainstorming. These are 3 things you can do in the early hours, and it will give you a head start, and you'll see that you achieve much more in less time, and lead a life of balance because you're always in that mode because you woke up early. That's number 1. Number 2, praying istikhara before every decision. I shared this story before where there's this lady, she manages a multi-billion-dollar fund for an Islamic bank, out of all places. And I asked her, do you pray istikhara before praying, before making these investment decisions? And she's like, no. And she's someone who's very pious. She wears hijab, mashallah. She's a very good person, but she's never connected between her work and her faith. And this is exactly this whole point of all this training is, we have all these solutions in our deen. We need to bring it into our work life. We need to bring it into our professional lives and really practice our deen and not divorce faith and compartmentalize faith between faith and work, but really bring it in, because there's so much in our deen that helps us lead more balanced lives, more productive lives, more meaningful lives, because in the values of our deen. So that's the second. That's the second point, praying istikhara before every decision. The third thing is planning your life around salah. This is, again, there's Imam Hassan al-Basri has a beautiful saying. He's saying, if you think that you'll be successful in life without salah, then you're really not understand the power of salah. Now you might think, what about all these non-Muslims who are not successful and they don't pray? Again, there's a different balance here. Allah Subhanahu is treating you as a Muslim, and you need to ask yourself, His right upon me is that I should pray 5 times a day. And every day, 5 times a day, He calls and says, Hayya ala salah, hayya al falah. Come to prayer, come to success. If salah is that important, if you fulfill the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't you think you'll be successful in everything else? I have a new article coming up, inshallah ta'ala, I think about 1 week time, about how being late for salah affected my productivity. I mean, it was more of a confession article, but it's really that connection, just being late for salah and how that affected my productivity. And share some lessons there, and inshallah ta'ala will come in the next week or so, an article about lateness in salah and about productivity. So really plan your life around salah. Make the salah the center stage of your life, and everything else is around it. If you can make, work is here, fine. Salah comes time, and we inshallah have another session about faith and the spirituality in the workplace and how to find time for praying and solve all the faith issues in the work. But just to make us always think, how can I make sure I plan my life around salah and not the other way around, inshallah ta'ala. So, recap. And we just, alhamdulillah, it's just been 1 hour exactly, is why is work-life balance so hard to achieve? Like I said, because the whole idea of work-life balance by itself is very subjective, it's ever-changing, it's not measurable, it's basically, it's our attitude to work, and I think work is the center of our lives, and like I said, it is not the whole term work-life balance is just not appropriate. It's something we should not adopt itself. We should think more of life balance. The prophetic way of balancing our life, what did we learn from him? Number one, we learned that we should be responsible of our flock. So think about responsibility, not in the sense of protecting only, but developing and growing. Number two, think about the being focused, being engaged with those whenever we work, at home, and wherever we are, we should be engaged. And number three is to think about rights and responsibility, rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rights of his creation. That is how the prophetic way of balancing our lives. Number three, barakah is being the key ingredient to balancing your life. Barakah being the key ingredient to finding a balance and to do more with your time. If you feel I'm struggling with time, you feel like I can't do much more, then tap into the 18 sources of barakah, or any of them, and you'll see the barakah being increased, and you can do much more than you think you can do, inshallah ta'ala. Now, with that, I want to ask you, quick question. Was this useful for you? Was this useful for you? I want to make sure that I fulfilled my role and my haqq upon you, because you guys have a haqq upon me. Was this useful for you, inshallah ta'ala? I'm going to check the Facebook guys, see if they also found it useful. Okay, awesome. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so now, what did you find most surprising and most interesting? What do you think that, that was most surprising and most interesting for me? Just share some, if there's one thing you're going to take away from this webinar, what's the one thing you'll say, I'll take that and I'll take that seriously. So MPL, listening, okay. Performance exercise, okay, very good. MPL. Okay, Pomodoro, okay, brilliant. Minimum performance levels, okay. How work-life balance is subjective, should focus more on responsibilities, okay. The hadith Aisha, mashallah, brilliant, okay. Sources of Barakah, don't compartmentalize faith and work. Very good, okay, alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khair. I'm really happy that you guys found something useful, interesting, something inshallah ta'ala that you want to implement, inshallah ta'ala. Now, I want to tell you guys about this one-day workshop that we're holding in Dallas, inshallah ta'ala. For those who are in the US or Canada, we're having this is my first workshop here in Dallas, where we're really taking this whole idea of barakah effect and going a whole new level. We're going to go deeper into what did the Prophet's day look like. We're going to talk about how to tap into the idea of leadership and productivity from a prophetic perspective. Myself and Uthman are going to do this one-day workshop here in Dallas. I highly recommend you guys who live in Dallas or who live in the US or Canada to come for this workshop. This is a workshop that, for me, it's a new workshop. I have not done this workshop before. I've done a lot of workshops abroad in Singapore and Malaysia and Egypt and UK and Saudi, Nigeria and Bosnia, mainly focused on the productivity things, but this is leadership and productivity. It's targeting professionals, Muslim professionals, and really about, like I said, not compartmentalizing our faith anymore. We're kind of sick and tired of compartmentalizing our faith. Let's bring our faith back into our workplace. So I highly recommend, if you guys are in town or if you guys who are around the area, to sign up for this one-day workshop. Inshallah, you learn a lot. These are the topics we'll cover: how to develop a daily system for yourself that keeps you at peak performance from a faith perspective. What did the Prophet's day look like? How can we implement it? How to not just delegate but empower people around us. How does Shaitan play on our fears of poverty, right? How he mixes, when you think about whenever we want to be we're stressed at work and all that office politics, it's like Shaitan playing on the fears, on a poverty of being fired. These are things that were very interesting when talking to the tangible and practical things the Prophet did to develop people around him. How did the Prophet lead the unleadable? Think about the Prophet in the time of in Arabia with Bedouin Arabs who were just totally unruly, and he was able to lead them, even the most difficult people amongst them. Just think about Umar Khattab, for example. How do we deal with failures, with setbacks, and when things don't go as planned? What did the Prophet's leadership style look like? And how is it applied to modern? So this is actually a professional development training. It's not a again, all due respect to all the other workshops happening in the Islamic sphere, but this is a professional development training. This is targeting. Imagine just going to a company corporate training, but bringing the faith element to it, really bringing the faith element to all the professional development work that's out there. So we're talking about leadership, productivity, improving your performance, things inshallah ta'ala that will benefit you in your careers and in your life inshallah ta'ala. We'll talk about humility, ambition, contentment, topics that you'd love to learn more. I wish when I was in my corporate job, I wish someone would sit and speak to me about them, but unfortunately, you don't have that anymore. But because everyone's thinking, faith is a taboo, unfortunately, in the workplace, but we know more. We understand that faith is important for our professional development, for our life development, and it's the one thing that gives us meaning and purpose in today's life. So let us learn how to really acquire leadership skills, productivity skills from a faith perspective, inshallah ta'ala. Now, if you were to attend this workshop, and again, I'm not sure, I know some of you are from different parts of the world, if you were to attend this workshop, how will these topics improve your productivity? If you were to attend this workshop, do you think that this will be something that you'd want? I mean, again, we're testing the ground with this workshop. It's the first time we're doing this workshop on Barakah Effect, targeting specifically Muslim professionals. So are you, will these topics help you improve your productivity and your leadership? Again, I'm just trying to ask you that question. What do you think? Will this help improve your productivity, your leadership in your professional development and your professional life, inshallah ta'ala? Okay, so learning how to empower people, okay. Bismillah. Okay, getting confidence, okay. Excellent. Okay, excellent. So this is where, as I said, this is where we wanted people to be. We wanted people to help, we want to develop topics that are part of our professional development that will help us lead more productive life. Now, we want to have, for those of you who attend this webinar, spend a whole hour, more than an hour with me, I want to say thank you. Really, I want to say thank you for all of you for joining me live for this webinar. And I want to give a really special offer to all of you. This is only for those of you who are attending live through this webinar, and of course through the Facebook as well, that we're going to give a $50 coupon off the ticket price for the one-day workshop. So this workshop, instead of being $149, will be just for $99. So I want you, it's available for the next 24 hours. All you have to do is go into the registration page, which is barakaheffect.eventbrite.com, and add the promotional code work-life-balance. Now, this is the first offer. Now, I'm gonna give away a few things again for those who attend. Against me saying thank you for spending this whole hour with me. The first person who signs up today with this offer will get this, moleskin journal. It's a beautiful moleskin journal that can be used for journaling, which is, again, is a powerful way to develop yourself. And the next two people will get these, again, small pocket journals, which I always use to save my ideas. So the first three people will get these journals, inshallah ta'ala, but this offer is available for the next 24 hours. If you live in the US, if you live in Canada, I highly recommend you guys to fly in for this workshop. I know you might think, what, fly in? Trust me, fly in for this workshop, spend a day with us, and you will not regret it. Inshallah, it'll be something that's beneficial. It'll be something that will help you a lot in your professional development. You'll go back, think, your mind will boggle by what you'll learn. This is maybe hadith and seerahs and first Quran, which you always learned, but realizing there's impact in professional development. So I hope you guys will sign up. This is, again, special offer for those who attended this webinar. Again, as we're saying, thank you for spending this whole hour with me. If you just want to show you a quick way of how this actually would work, let me just show you quickly, because if you go to the Eventbrite page, which is here. So if you go to Eventbrite page and you go enter promotional code and just put work-life balance and you click apply, you'll see the discount immediately applied for you and the price will drop to $99. So this is available in the next 24 hours. If you have friends or family who live in Dallas, or your friends and family in the US, you should tell them about this. Say this is a one-day workshop. You can share with them. We will have a recording of this webinar. You can share with them this webinar. Inshallah ta'ala, if they find it useful, again, sign up for this one-day workshop. I'm really excited to be doing this workshop here in Dallas, and I can't wait to have some of you, all of you, inshallah ta'ala, for this webinar. And now we will open, let me do this. Let me say, oh, someone's asking further. Okay, let me do this. Here we go. The registration link is there. Here you go. Oh dear, can't seem to. Barakah Effect. Okay, there you go. So here's the registration page. All right, So again, all you gotta do is put in the code work-life balance and you'll be $50 off. It's only the next 24 hours, inshallah ta'ala. And really, really appreciate you joining us this one-day workshop. I mean, I'm excited to have this discussion. Like even just this 1 hour right now, I learned so much from you, just like the work-life balance issues and how did the Prophet deal with it and just seeing how that works. Let's take that another level with a full-day workshop together, inshallah ta'ala, at the end of April in Dallas, Texas, inshallah ta'ala. Now, the Barakah Effect workshop, this is the platform. Here's the venue. It will be in a professional, in a nice hotel. We're gonna have a full day and it'll be buzzing. It'll be one day that I'm really, really excited to having inshallah ta'ala with you all. With that in mind, let us hopefully see you guys there. And any questions? Here we go. So I'm gonna have another 10 minutes for questions, inshallah ta'ala, before we wrap up. Any questions that you guys had from this webinar, inshallah. I also get some questions from the Facebook fan page as well. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so Jose asking the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique is very simple. You set the timer, literally use your phone, set the timer of 25 minutes. And then during those 25 minutes, you focus on a single task without getting distracted. So you can turn off everything, put down on the floor, and just focus on a single task. Not checking emails, not doing anything else. That single task for 25 minutes. And then when the buzzer goes off, you stop. You take a 5-minute break, and then you do again another 25 minutes. And then you do it again, second Pomodoro, and then you do a third time. Pomodoros is very powerful because they help you beat procrastination. You've been procrastinating for a long, long time. It's a very powerful way to force you to just start for 25 minutes. It's not too long, so your brain doesn't feel, oh my God, I gotta do this. And it's not too short that you don't do anything useful. So it's quite just the right time, just the right amount of inshallah ta'ala. So Zainab is asking, how can I identify good people to hire? Okay. You have far too many clients. Alhamdulillah, that's awesome. Okay, so if you want to hire people, I'm assuming hire contractors or hire employees, clients. Okay. Okay, if you have CVs, what I recommend you, so if you have CVs of people to hire and you want to sort of, people basically working for you, I recommend you go for a 5-step process. The first step is to look at their CVs and to really sort of go through all of them at once so that you kind of really have an idea to compare between them. The second step I recommend you do is to pick the few that you really think are the most suitable and interview all of them. And ideally, when you do the interview, is not just asking what they did and the past performance, but giving them practical example, giving them like a test, saying, can you do a specific task that you will normally ask them to do, and see what the response is. For example, I have a customer support team. When we hire them, we ask them to respond to a few emails from our customers so that we can see how well they respond, how fast they respond, for example. So give them something that they would do that will show you exactly their work. Of course, number 4, it's always good to do some background check, to do some references, check previous employers, and see really how well were and how good are they really. Do they any issues, behavioral issues you should know about in advance. Once you've gone through all of that, then you get to a point where you pray istikhara prayer. Once you've decided on the 1 or 2 people you're going to hire, pray istikhara prayer. And then what I recommend you to do is give them some kind of probation period, like a period like 1 month or 3 months, and say, hey, listen, it's a probation period. You get to work with us, see how well you fit in. We get to work with you, see how well we fit in with you, and then we decide whether we're going to move this to a more permanent position after 1 month. That way, it's a more concrete way, inshallah ta'ala, of hiring somebody, inshallah ta'ala, and really getting that, inshallah. Hope that helps, inshallah. Okay, great. Okay, so Khadija is asking how to perform if your parents are far away. So, example, constantly calling them, asking them for how well they're doing, supporting them if they need some support financially, trying to visit them as often as possible if you can afford, of course, to visit them, spending time with them, really getting engaged with your life. It's not just they're far away. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, with Skype, with WhatsApp, with all this technology, you can really be almost like spend quality time. Of course, it does not beat being with them, but if this is the context of your life, given the different context, is as much as you can to be engaged with them, asking about them, finding out how well they're doing, even from your siblings. Sometimes they don't tell you if they're not feeling well. Just asking them really how well they're doing, and just being engaged, contacting them daily, supporting them financially. If you can visit them very often, and just doing your best, in giving the context you have. And if you want to ask more detail, giving you specific context, I highly recommend that you meet an imam or scholar who will give you more practical advice. Because again, it depends if they really need you, if you're the only person, only daughter, and it gets complicated when it comes on the case-by-case basis. So if you want to explain your context in more detail and really ask an imam or scholar, what does Islam say about my situation, and what am I doing as a daughter, and how can I fulfill the right of my parents given my context, I highly recommend you a scholar imam who could answer that question for you, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Okay, all right, guys. I think it's getting late for us here. It's about past 11 o'clock. Hope you guys benefited from this. Hope this was useful. And again, if you are in Dallas, Texas, or US or Canada, I hope you guys make most of our, of this offer that I just sent you for the webinar. And inshallah, this will be posted. We have this Facebook Live already recorded most of this webinar, but I'll also put this version as well online. I mean, I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and Jazakumullah khair for being with me, spending this hour with me. Really, really appreciate it. And I want to hear who the first few people who signed up. We'll give you some of these gifts, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and give you all a life of balance, a life of contentment, a life full of barakah. Barakallahu feekum. Subhanakallahumma hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.